This is good, man.
Are we just gonna make it better?
Yeah,
Get the
it's
numbers.
good information.
I mean, the
Or even
bulletins are
make it
doing
down
pretty
to
well
Florida.
on the last newsletter.
She get them.
Got in there okay?
Yeah.
Oh, you're running that.
You know, the zero advertisements contained in it. We're really raking it in. So that's how sway outputs analytics. So a glance means that they read less than a third. Quick read, they read more than a third. And deep read means they read more than 50%.
I'm a slow reader.
What was the difference in the bulletins or the newsletters between spring and winter? Why was the increase so much?
I think we just did a better job putting it out there.
That's good. That's great.
Let's go back here.
That's what we're calling the blog in honor of the old newspaper. And we have link, if you go to the blog's page, we have linked to the North Canton Sun archives that the library has.
Yeah, I looked through the archives quite a bit. They're pretty neat.
Gentlemen, the sign clearly says employees only.
Huh?
The sign clearly says employees only right here on the
And
board.
you're supposed to have a sign on the door that says there's a meeting here tonight.
There is a sign on the
Where
bulletin
is
board
it?
in the lobby.
Where's it on the door?
It doesn't have to be on the door, it's on the lobby.
On the lobby.
I will show you right there on the bulletin
People know
board.
to come into the lobby.
Half the chambers haven't moved.
Who's committee the street now?
President Schroy is the chairman and Mr. Matheny is the vice chairman.
Okay.
There's a bulletin board right here on this wall that has public notices.
Will you
No.
take a moment and vote on
I thought you were supposed to have a door notifying of any meetings.
to explain?
There's no legal requirement to put it on a door.
There used to be at City
I
Hall.
cannot because I'm recusing myself from that.
And I wouldn't
There's a
call,
notice board at City Hall as well, where we also post public notices.
Yes, you post them here. This is, this is, where are they?
It's right there on that
They're on
bulletin
the
board.
door.
It doesn't have to be on the door,
Okay.
Mr. Tripp.
Okay.
and I wouldn't call elected officials
Look,
city
there's a
employees.
plaque.
They are city employees, they receive a salary.
Agenda. So Ben could just put it on the screen. Is that off of 10th Street? Right. But how are you gonna do this?
So they can get to the school parking, run through here.
But what, you have to have a street. Get into the school parking lot, what street is it?
So this is 7. And this is the driveway to the school.
So it's all seven.
Yeah. But it's also on the back way. It was fire from.
Yeah.
I'm
So
across.
Fifth Street.
I understand, but
Okay.
we're here in the capacity of being
Here.
Do you know that?
Fire department's right.
Yes.
I'm like,
But 7th Street. there's
I'm an
no
employee though, it
access.
just says city employee.
You go right through that.
I'm a city employee,
Yeah, you're a crossing guard, right?
crossing guard. The sign doesn't say, but tonight I'm here as a public.
Debating if I should put the blind down though, because now I can see the park.
Everybody out there.
So there'll be 2 ways. Oh, really? Oh, you mean, thank you. Gave a chance to look at any of those properties?
Personally, I did not. Not yet.
I just wondered how many are under the table, under the radar.
Yeah. Try to get to it. I've been out looking at some others today. And, you know,
Okay. Just was curious. Beautiful day today.
It is.
My kids came yesterday for Mother's Day and all I wanted was some work done. So when you walk past, you have to look at my great big Japanese maple. There's now a ring around the bottom of it, with the bricks.
Oh,
That'll keep the grass from growing up into the mulch.
I'll have to look at it.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be a simple project, because my grandson did the oak tree, and he did it in dug the trench and put the bricks in like an hour. But this tree had roots. My poor son, and they were like this big. So he had to get the axe,
Chop through.
chop through, and there must have been like 6 of them. Oh, but it looks so nice. Oh my gosh, it's so nice. And then I put a barrier, my husband had put a brick walk in to the east of the garage.
okay.
And then I have like
Chuck,
shrubs,
did you watch the video?
that's where the family room is, and all that mulch kept going
Larry?
down, hi,
Did you watch
kept going down
I'm fully
onto
informed.
the brick walk.
Here's the thing.
Can I get behind you?
So I went to Lowe's and looked, and I found this hard
For
rubber
years, you've been trying to communicate with
about
me.
that wide,
Check it out.
about that
You write me
high.
down? I post INIC.
And then they dug a trench and put that in.
Okay, I'm coming over here to see if Diorio, this is my garden. Diorio, you been on the garden plan? No.
Houses can be a pain. Houses can be a pain.
I'll find that out, yep.
These are all linked.
And if you don't keep up with it,
It's worse.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, how's good it going?
How's that stock?
Yeah,
To kind of say like,
Brutal.
oh, there's
Percent in the NASDAQ.
Okay.
NASDAQ.
and how many?
The
Suppose a high 600 on that.
NASDAQ has the ETFs,
Yeah.
technology.
I mean, and we do post these to Facebook.
Right, it's great.
Our top performing things are
The park, yeah.
Yeah, it's-
Like every day, someone stopped me again today.
Yeah, that's the problem.
the park I took my kids, then it's something, they needed something different. Oh, somebody did Spider Park. Because they think that one, they look like Spider-Man, and that one, and it's just very big. Hi. How you doing?
Larry, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
You do check? I got done today.
Yeah.
How are you?
Exactly.
Oh,
I knew you showed up.
Probably be your last.
We'll see how it goes.
I just thought I'd come and It's all right.
I feel the same that I remember the last one walking in here.
Really need to pay more attention.
That's a big sign.
Usually I'll reach out to Matt.
They got protocols now.
Yeah.
Marianne?
You know, it's the better
No.
But I couldn't figure out why it is that you are opposed to the rental agreement. Oh my God, when she.
I just wanted you to see the history. Larry?
How are you, sir?
Good, haven't seen you in a while. You looking good? Your yard looks good too. I drove by the other day.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to drive by Chuck's house, see if he's staying on top of his yard.
He is,
You drive by my house.
he voted yesterday.
Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers.
My kids and all
What
the
do you go,
jobs.
guard police?
No, I'm teasing.
Oh, I know you are.
Well, I just feel that it's not necessary and it's an extra layer of stuff that we have to deal with. And I think we should just send a letter to all the landlords that we have problems with ask them to, give the.
I know one person.
Well, why
The
not?
question is how many are.
Well, I guess you won't know that until you send a letter out, right? And ask for what you're looking for. What are you looking for exactly? What are we looking for?
The ones that are flying under the radar that are paying their
Taxes.
income taxes.
No, that's great.
And the ones that aren't paying the state.
There's a lot of homeowners out there who say they can't
Oh,
see.
we can't do that though. That's what it is.
Yeah, but they would not bid.
If,
If they're gonna bid, they would keep.
it's wrong.
I saw a few of
Like I dream of what's it do?
I don't know, they really need to. I think a lot of people know.
No. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realize the state based around here, and you shouldn't give bread ever. I found out bread's in the bottom of 7th Street. Junk food for that? So I'm like, you know, pretty soon I think it's did this and
That's good. That's good.
we're not dirty, you know, like a share. Some people.
I didn't know what it was to say.
It's kind of like.
You know, like,
Well, I got one sis, and the only thing you have to see a problem with is the person living there, and they don't claim it.
Well, that's right.
Jamie, did they approve the new location? Your job?
Oh, yes, yes, so I.
You didn't say yours was
starting
your
on the
job.
first, so.
Oh, it's not that
Drives up to like
it's a long, like 20.
Level, yeah. Wait, so you're gonna have territory now? You guys are far. You're gonna miss going up by the lake.
I know, well,
Didn't see your point at lunch occasionally.
exactly what I was.
But I'm saying it's just more that much.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the house is tore down.
Yes. What I'm saying is I do present fantastic subdivisions of business, so I claim I'm in, and my options, right? But let's see if I wasn't doing that, then what would really be the benefit of having Yeah, they, Kathy did.
Uh-huh. I should show you the data.
Yeah. So, it's going around. Yeah, she said,
That's why I'm thinking.
And they do that. How's it going?
Which one do you need?
This one? It's really so weird because I turn it off, so it should stay when I go home.
I can, mine doesn't do it either.
I was sitting in bed today and like I charged this, and I like opened this up and I'm like, oh. How? Yeah, how?
I have mine in settings to turn off after half hours.
I do too.
Yeah.
Will the mayor be here today?
Well, it depends.
Oh, yeah.
When the air's up here.
I was thinking that's what they just had some cards from the grade school.
That's a burden that we all have to share.
Okay.
That's right.
What I want to see.
Yeah, they do. Well, that's close to it.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure, when mine was at the day house, so you wouldn't have to sit on your lap. Because we used to have a table up front, full press, a huge one.
I was like, stop it.
Used to, you felt
Guarding? Yeah. You are.
Oh no, I'm fully on a wall single, staying in the back of the meeting room.
well, I
And
know
then I
that you
go
felt
down
on your
to,
lap and
Claremont.
No, I appreciate that, thank you.
But I do it only in the morning. 'Cause I don't
Very
get up in the morning. Forces you up. Yep, that's,
It was fine.
that's the reason I did it.
Did you have a good Mother's Day?
I did, it was wonderful, thank you. Couple things are hard, you know, and like just. And then any chance, I actually wasn't able to have a walk today. Okay, what was the main point? Yeah, so I think I've heard that part before. So it would be great.
I now call to order the City Council meeting of Monday, May 9th, 2022. The time is 7 p.m. Opening prayer, Jamie.
All right, thank you. All right, let us pray. Dear Lord, I pray that you guide us always. Satisfy the needs that need to be met during this meeting. Strengthen us as we make tough decisions. I pray that we will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail. I pray that we will be fruitful. Father, please guide us so that this meeting can be productive. Let us be effective and decisive. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ben, would you please call the roll?
Member McCreasy?
Here.
Member Weiner?
Here.
Member Warren?
Here.
Member Shoreham?
Here.
Member Revolt?
Here.
Member McKinney?
Here.
Member Orr?
Here.
7 front.
Thank you. Can I have a motion and a second to approve as presented minutes from April 11th, 2022 and April 18th, 2022, as well as the 2023 revenue projections as required by section 3.03 of the charter?
Revolt moves. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. At this time, members of the public wishing to address council may do so. Each speaker will be granted 5 minutes. As a reminder, the rules are posted on the screen to the audience's right.
Larry Tripp, 1127 East Maple, North Canton, Ohio. My remarks tonight cover my views on the last 2 meetings. I speak to you tonight as adults. Am I wrong? I didn't think so. But then, why was there even a discussion that further review may be needed to define an acceptable absence? There are, in my opinion, no real reason for an excuse other than sick, family emergencies, career position and responsibilities, and one that we never like to speak of, death of a city government employee or family members. Remarks last week in addressing the Charter Review Committee recommendation on council member absenteeism created, in my opinion, what you folks would call a crisis situation initiated by council members themselves. This should be addressed immediately by council president along with council personnel chairperson. Publicly, it should be known by North Canton City the views and actions of some council members are not the views of North Canton City Council and city government. In the business world, picture yourself as interviewing a potential new employee. Explanations have been made on job requirements, the knowledge needed, benefits, and salary. You ask the individual being interviewed, what are your concerns about this position and your expectations? Among others, you hear the question, do you have an absence policy? Hearing that, you now realize potentially having an individual thinking to beat the system. That's exactly what I heard last Monday. To further solidify my remarks, I would strongly ask that all council members read and review the minutes of the September 9th, 2019 meeting and my address to council that evening, along with council member responses. It appears once again North Canton personnel showed some of its colors a couple of weeks ago. Thank the public speakers for their comments, but then imply or say, we will do it my way. In my opinion, the comments directed to the Albrechts, Acme top management were demeaning, somewhat crude and untrue as delivered by North Canton government personnel and a North Canton citizen to suggest to leaders of a firm doing business in North Canton for over 40 years against fair competition that they will have to change their business picture and become more innovative against unfair competition was a low blow. As I stand here today, the idea of a business campus was great. However, you lost it. You lost it. And in spite of COVID, Devo moved its headquarters to Hudson. Thus, as we now know it, the former Kmart property is supposedly becoming a strip retail mega, somewhat designed with unfair advantages given by the city to drive out local business. That doesn't appear to be too innovative to me. Thank you.
Dominic Fonte, second grade, 965 Fair Oaks Avenue, Southwest. So I'm here just to chat a minute about the rental registration. As most of you know by now, I'm not for it. And it's not that it's necessarily a bad thing, it's just that I'm trying to understand, like with the demographics, the video, all the stuff I sent you guys so that you could get educated about what the market was doing. It's not really a big issue unless you feel that you need to have a better handle on who lives in the city, right? So we have, you know, maybe 66% homeowners and a good balance of rentals. Now, there are a few bad eggs out there. Maybe some don't even file their taxes. Possibly some of the tenants don't. Why not just send a letter to all the residents and saying that, you know, we're entertaining rental registration again? And the reason why is because there's some bad eggs out there that aren't filing their taxes and or whatever. And we want to make sure everybody's paying their fair share, right? You know, because if not, then what's happening is as we head into this, I mean, it's not like, you know, I have one rental, so it's like $150, a little inconvenient. So it's not the end of the world, but we're working 1 to 8 family. Well, you have many units that are multi-units where they're really running it like a business. Most of the 1 to 8 are small people that are mom and pops, and more than likely they're filing their taxes most of the time because that's how you get the benefit of depreciation and you're earning the income and the write-off, right? So if not, if you know anything about real estate, it isn't like a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a slow, methodical process over the course of many, many years, unless you have multiple, you know, units. Then it's like a business. And like Mary and I were just chatting a minute ago, she didn't quite get that. She was like, well, you know, you're making a penny, you need to pay your fair share. Well, I do pay my fair share. But I'm just saying, as we head into this market, and if you've been watching anything about the economics, the 35 years I've been doing real estate, I remember the high interest rates, like 23%. I remember the Gulf War. I remember 9/11. I remember 2008 to 2013 is where we had an issue with rentals because people bought at the top of the market, lower no down payments, and they had a financial situation where they were upside down. They couldn't bring 30K to closing, so they turned them into rentals. Bad move. It devastated Canton City. They have 47% of homeowners, where we have 66% of homeowners. So when you look at the balance, it's not really a problem. So if you feel the problem's safety, I've been in most of the houses, many houses in North Canton, and the majority of them were built before '79, correct? So that means lead paint, asbestos, and all these other things that you're talking about affect everybody. So this is a whole citywide thing. So Kurt Schering said they're working on some monies to help people to renovate. And as you know, many of you, you know, there's no inventory. So there's like 5 people for every house. This is the wrong time to do it. And on top of the wrong time to do it, it's because economically, watch the stock market since April 1. Look at what's happening economically. Just to give you an example, folks, December 31st, just 4 months ago, the interest rates were 3.09. You know what they are now? 5.25% to 6%. And they're gonna push it much higher. So the worry I have, because remember, I was sitting where you were too. And if it's real and it's legit, believe me, I'm all for it. But I know too much about this subject. Now, here's the thing, the unknown. When COVID came, we were looking at office jobs. We were looking at good jobs for Kmart, like everybody says. But then COVID came. Guess what happened? Changed the whole dynamic, didn't it? The paradigm shift came where now people work from home. They're reevaluating office space. So as a city with our little 6-mile space, we got to worry about that. So as we're doing the land banking for the right reasons, the worry I have is to focus on getting a good mix of businesses in here to accentuate what we're all about, the fabric we have. And as far as the rentals go, you know, you have 1 to 8. Think about this. Christina, did you rent?
Do I rent currently?
Yeah.
No.
Have you ever rented anybody up there? You might do it transitionally, you might do it going through a divorce, maybe a sickness, a financial hardship. And so sometimes when this happens, you know, you don't want to have more inconvenience and more hassle unless it's a big issue. Kansas City is a big issue. They had a devastating market after the debacle happened. We recovered very quickly. There was only, when I sent you that video last week, 5 homes on the market, 1 rental property on the market, 15 within 12 months sold, right? Over 100% of value. And on the housing, you had 29 pending sales, 5 on the market, 233 closed transactions. So in closing, God bless all of you. Pat, I love you over there. Looking forward to seeing you at the garden.
Thank you.
Thank you.
else wanting to address public?
Hello, everyone. My name is Kayla Atchison. I'm the Government Affairs Director for Stark-Trumbull Area Realtors. We are the Board of Realtors.
Can you state your address for the record?
Okay. Our address is 7110 Whipple Avenue Northwest, Suite B, North Canton, Ohio 44720. We are the Board of Realtors that represent over 1,400 realtor members within Stark, Trumbull, and Carroll County. So we are the voice of real estate within the region. It is our job as a regional entity of Ohio Realtors and National Association of Realtors to play an important role in stimulating our local economy and conversing with community leaders like yourself to promote community investment within our region. Today, I speak as an interested party to ordinance number 43-2022, an ordinance establishing Chapter 703 of registration of rental units within the city of North Canton. The Stark-Trumbull Area Realtors is interested in protecting private property rights and improving real estate within the Stark County region, including North Canton. We appreciate the opportunity to address Council today to express our concerns regarding this proposed legislation and to engage in a productive dialogue regarding how we can meet the needs of current and future homeowners within North Canton. STAR believes in a housing market that consists of safe, diverse, and affordable homes. We believe that in order to maintain a healthy market, local governments like yourself must play a role. Specifically, STAR believes in your role as instituting exterior only inspections, and we have asked in the previous administration that it can be maintained to exterior only inspections. By creating a rental registration that would include tenant information and frequent inspections, and STAR understands that you're doing this in order to maintain a high standard of living within residential dwellings within the city of North Canton, but is concerned about the inconsistent standards that this ordinance sets for mom and pop investors and the potential constitutionality concerns regarding government mandated registries. In fact, realtor associations across the USA have found that rental licensing and inspection ordinances are discriminatory in practice, and they have been ruled unconstitutional for infringing on private property rights and violating of the privacy rights of tenants. Recently, the Southern District of Ohio ruled that the city of Portsmouth rental registration as unconstitutional and a violation of the Fourth Amendment. In addition to constitutional concerns about rental registrations, we also believe that this creates an unfair market for mom and pop investors, as this specific ordinance is only relating to individuals who own less than 8 properties. While large corporations, including out-of-state and foreign investors, which we have seen an influx in recently, they are not required to register their rentals, thus creating an unfair market that stifles the entrepreneurial spirit and the community spirit within North Canton. There are many reasons why individuals choose to rent within the city of North Canton, whether that be single parents seeking good schools for their children, recent college graduates that are looking to plant their roots within a community, transitional workers that are meeting the growing needs of Stark County, as we've seen recently with the new Amazon facility. North Canton has a well-maintained housing stock that's increasingly desirable. Currently, over 66% of North Canton's housing market is homeowner occupied. The median cost of a home was previously $155,000. We are now seeing prices over $200,000. The county has seen an overall increase in 17%. There is a growing need for middle-class housing in the city of North Canton and Stark County as a whole. Currently, less than 35% of housing units are rentals within North Canton. That is largely different than other areas of Stark County who have instituted such residential rental restrictions. Rental restrictions are often imposed to address negative impacts to communities that are commonly attributed to rental units, but might not solely have to do with rental units. These are like noise violations, increased traffic, overcrowding, and disrepair properties. This is not the case in North Canton, where there are already ordinances in place to declare certain properties or activities to be public nuisances, and those are required to be addressed. We would like to work collaboratively with the city to address these issues through an empirical study at no cost to the city. We have resources through the National Association of Realtors, through Ohio Realtors, and through our local association to find a more equitable solution for all. We appreciate your time and attention to this important issue. On behalf of STAR, I thank you for your willingness to serve and for your commitment to the betterment of North Canton. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to address council?
Chuck Osborne, 307 Fairview Street, Southeast North Canton, Ohio. I want to address the proposed charter amendments for 4-year terms. A 4-year council term is a long time, too long for both city officials and for citizens. As a compromise, I could support a 4-year term for mayor. As I understand the argument that anyone has offered would prefer stability of 4 years for their city administrator rather than a 2-year term. As for members of city council, 2-year terms of office have worked for congressional representatives in Washington since the adoption of this country's Constitution in 1788, 234 years ago. 2-year council terms has worked since North Canton enacted its city charter in 1961. I am a firm believer in the system of checks and balances in our system of government, and I think under a 4-year mayor, we can continue to provide that. Under a 4-year term for mayor, city council members can continue to serve 2-year terms and provide checks and balances on the mayor serving a 4-year term. On balance, North Canton voters would continue to provide checks and balances on members of city council serving a 2-year term. If you were to proceed with a 4-year term for council members, this is what I see unfolding in the future. The likelihood that a council member would resign mid-term because, as I said, a 4-year term is a long time. City council would then be filling unexpired terms. Thus, a new appointee would be running for re-election as an incumbent, thus having an advantage against an opponent. The current 2-year council term keeps citizens engaged in their government. It encourages the electorate to stay abreast of what is going on in their government. Currently, with 2-year residency requirements that we now have, a citizen has to reside in the city for 4 years before they could run for elected office. And I've seen this happen. Switching to a 4-year council term, a citizen would ultimately end up having to serve for live in the city for 6 years before they could ever run for elected office. As it is now, it's 4 years. And I think I was hoping a couple years ago that they could reduce the residency requirement to 1 year. Whether a council member is newly elected or has decades of experience on North Canton City Council, they are equally dependent on a knowledgeable, trained, and experienced council clerk. This perceived need to switch to a 4-year term is a result, I believe, of the elimination of the assistant council clerk position years ago. A knowledgeable council clerk is the nerve center of the functions of the city. Switching to 4-year terms for members of council is not a substitute for an untrained, inexperienced, unseasoned council clerk. Regarding the removal of elected officials from elected office, your standard that city council has 50 meetings per year is flawed. Council rules are that council of the whole meetings are held on the first and third Monday of the month, and council meetings on the second and fourth. 4 meetings a month, even if they were held every month for 12 months, only equates to 48 meetings. Nice. But we all know that council does not meet 4 Mondays of every month. There is a Christmas recess and a summer recess when there are no council meetings. This reduces the number of meetings by at least 6 meetings by my calculation, which brings the number of meetings per year to 42 meetings. Last year, 2021, council had only met for 40 dates. Multiple meetings on a single night are not discussed but should be addressed in our charter. Doubling up on meetings on a single night should only be allowed under extreme circumstances and should not be the result of poor planning or at the convenience of members of council. Lastly, why is it that a member of council believes that 90% attendance rate is more than satisfactory? Would that be a good argument when their doctor chooses to be absent when they are scheduled for surgery, he can just say, hey, I'm here 90% of the time. I don't think any of you would believe that's satisfactory. Would that be a good argument when the airline pilot scheduled to fly them to their vacation flight chose to be absent for that flight? I don't think so. It is obvious when someone no longer has a heart and is no longer focused on serving their constituents. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else wanting to address council tonight?
I had a question. Mr. Tripp, what was that date? Was that September?
September the 9th, 2019.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on to old business, can I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 40-2022?
Revolt moves. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ben?
An ordinance establishing chapter 193 transient occupancy tax of the codified ordinances of the city of North Canton, and thereby imposing a transient occupancy tax for the benefit of the city of North Canton, Ohio.
Okay, we've talked about this a couple times. Does anyone else have any more questions?
Right now, that's going to only affect one place of business.
Right. Okay. No other questions, I move to adopt.
Revolt seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Oh, okay. Can I have a motion a second to read by title only, ordinance 41-2022?
Revolt moves. Second.
All opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Ben, will you please read the ordinance?
An ordinance accepting a record plat of the sanctuary Phase 5 located within the corporate limits of the city of North Canton.
I got this.
Yep, sorry.
That's okay. So this is the phase 5 of the sanctuary. It's gone through the planning commission. There's been public speaks on this. We've already approved the sites, or not the sites, the drainage, the sewer. We accepted the bond for the sidewalks. This is the second reading.
Yep.
And we would like to go ahead and, if there's no other questions, make a motion that we pass this phase 5.
Revolt seconds.
William second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Alrighty.
Okay, can I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 43-2022?
Revolt moves. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ben?
An ordinance establishing chapter 703 registration of rental units of the codified ordinances of the city of North Canton, and thereby requiring the registration and inspection of rental units located within the city of North Canton, Ohio.
Thank you. What I'd like to do, first of all, is let's open up to comments, if there are any. And then I am going to propose a brief technical, or a small technical amendment to the ordinance, which we'll discuss in a moment. So are there any questions or comments for the administration or
I
for
have a question.
council? Yes.
You did a really nice job, both of you did a really nice job speaking. So when you talked about that survey or the questionnaire, what was that you were talking about? Or have you mentioned that? Have they ever talked about that, a surveying the people or anything?
So we've been, so I'm new to the association. I started last summer, but there's been an ongoing history between the city and our association of discussing how we can address some of the needs of maintaining properties that are currently owned by small mom and pop investors within the city. And we have the ability to do an empirical survey through the National Association of Realtors and Ohio Realtors grant in order to actually look at feasibility and who are making these police calls, because we notice that that is a factor when it comes to rental registration, and how maybe we can enforce some of the current ordinances that are on the books rather than create an additional regulation and what we feel is an unfair marketplace for our mom and pop investors versus larger scale corporations.
Okay.
Yes, Ms. Roll.
Thank you for being here tonight. How many counties are you working in now?
We work in 3 counties, correct.
How many municipalities are you working with at this time to address their concerns about their rental housing stock?
So yourself and Louisville right now are the ones that were brought to our attention.
So out of 3 counties, we're it, basically, in Louisville.
That have current regulations and ordinances that we're working to address, correct.
So, if I understand this, your association is more reactive than proactive. In other words, you wait until an issue crops up, and then you present yourself, but there is no proactive effort to address issues.
I would disagree with that statement.
Well,
we are a member-driven organization, so we do have a legislative committee which brings to our attention issues of importance to them, and this is one that is of great importance.
Of course it is. Now, it wasn't 3 months ago? It wasn't in 2019 when we popped up?
We did have ongoing conversations with the administration in
There's nothing
2019.
happened in the wake of that from your organization. Is
There
that
was
correct?
also a national pandemic, sir.
I understand that, but we can do a lot of stuff online.
Well, our members were fighting actually for their right to continue to operate their businesses during an environment where neighboring states were not allowed to, so that was a great
Let me ask you
priority
this
for them.
question then, because you're so in touch with your membership. And I apologize because I'm gonna ask some fairly pointed questions.
That's fine. I will do my best to address. As I mentioned, I am new to this position of
Okay.
8 months, so.
We have on our books ordinance 13478, 134th ordinance of the year 1978. It was adopted by council, signed into law, placed on our codified ordinances. It requires that all rental owners within 30 days or on an annual basis, March 1, notify the city, particularly the finance director, of all the tenants that they have in their, that they're renting to. Can you tell me how many of your members comply with this ordinance?
That is something I can get you that information and get back to you.
Can I have a point of order? Is this legal what we're doing?
Oh,
Because we're-
absolutely it is.
No, I mean, we're calling a public speaker back up. She could speak to you personally at any time.
Yes, and that's actually what I would like to have an ongoing conversation. I'd like to actually bring in my members who are investors, who are homeowners within North Canton, who have a stake in this change, and see how we can actually move forward on this initiative.
Here's my point. This has been hanging out here for an extended period of time. And as I explained to your colleague here, we believe there's substantial non-compliance on our income, with our income tax ordinance. Substantial. I'm not sure that a survey or a letter is going to bring compliance. I have a hunch that the problem could be fairly significant, but we won't know until we have data. So I could go to, you have talked about that rentals are a business. Maybe you can sit down, I'll just address everyone else.
No,
The
that's
rentals are a business.
fine, sir.
They're a business. We regulate businesses. If you're running Rose Ice Cream Stand, which is a mom and pop, operates 6 months out of the year, 7 months out of the year, you're gonna get an inspection from our fire inspector and the health department. That's the bottom line. It's interesting because I think what we're trying to do is promote health, safety, and welfare. We have no data on whether we have problems or not. We have lots of anecdotal stuff. We know what's going on outside, but we sure as heck don't know what's going on inside. And if you look at the inspection sheet that was provided as a sample for this, that's clear. I think the other thing is this, and I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I'm the old guy in this room. This is not the same North Canton that I knew when I came on council in 1981. When your rentals grow from 35 to 50%, and we have some idea that they're growing, but we're not sure, we can begin to have fairly serious issues. May. Not will, but may. As I walk around this community, I'm concerned about the housing stock that I see. And I think it should concern all the policymakers in this room. What I do know is that at some point between 35 and 50%, your community loses control of its quality. May lose control because it's happened in other communities. It's particularly plagued by the arrival of out-of-town small businessmen. We looked at one today. Not very encouraging. Waiting for complaints doesn't work. It just doesn't. We've had experience getting into homes where once we get in, clearly they can't meet code. So I think as we look at this, I think for us, for policymakers here, and I speak only for myself, I think we've got two issues. The first is, what is the exact status of our health, safety, and welfare of our rental units, particularly the smaller ones? And the second is, and we have an interest in this, what is the level of compliance with our income tax ordinance? What is it? Fair question. I don't know. And as we begin to collect data, if you're going to make policy down the road, you've got to have data. Because that will either tell you suggest you're either on the right track or the wrong track, where you should be on the no action track. Now, I look back on the last 10 years, and we have walked past some fairly significant issues around this table. I was here for some of them, not here for others. Arrowhead Country Club. We had 2 garbage contracts that expired, nobody ever caught. We didn't touch the water rates for 4 years, although we were obligated to do so. We have municipal issues that we need to address, and I think it's important that if we're going to, it's on the table, and it's council's option. With all due respect to our speakers tonight, hold off, wait, we'll fix it. Doesn't. Past is prologue. With all due respect, this popped up, nobody ever checked in, nobody did anything because it wasn't going to be an issue. It's back. And I hate to put again our speaker on the spot tonight, and I appreciate your comments.
May I address those comments?
No, you may not. The reality is this, that as you look around, sometimes you have the moment. If you procrastinate, you're going to lose it.
Well, I think one thing that we've said
So
too.
that's, let me go down, let me start with Mr. Rohr, we'll move up the table. If you have anything to say,
I've got a couple things to say. I'm not against rental registration. We need to change the verbiage to all. We learned tonight Portsmouth, Ohio. I think we're setting ourselves up maybe for future lawsuits by just going that. So if it was all, I might be all for it. And then what software package are we gonna do? I think if we change the verbiage to all, did this go through our legal department?
yes, it did.
It did?
Yes, and let's just, I love good arguments.
Well, I'm not here to argue, but we need to change
I don't
all.
mean that in a fight, I mean in a discussion. One of the things about citing a court case, and I'm gonna practice a little law on license.
Well, I
Yes,
wasn't
you
quite
got it.
done yet. I want to seize my
Okay.
moment.
You go ahead and seize it and I'll follow up.
Okay, so I'm not asking us to, I'd like us to postpone this, because I think there's a couple more things we can do. We can probably get the data, data's always good, you said that earlier. We can get some more data and take that, add the word all to it, and I think we've got something here. So we can seize your moment then, but I think we need to slow it down a little bit. It's been going on for 10+ years, and we need to get the data from other organizations and add the word all, because I do think that is cause for some type of lawsuit. I'm done.
I would only, John, I would respond in this fashion. Without having read the Portsmouth lawsuit, I don't know what was unconstitutional within it. And I would also argue that I think it's the administration's intent to include all. It wants to start on a limited basis first.
But Safeco would be able to.
At any time after this is adopted, council, if it's its pleasure, can amend it and expand it at a time it so chooses. This is not cast in stone.
But then again, one of the reasons we're doing this right now is safety. We've heard
Yeah.
that a couple times.
Yeah.
So, just because they're bigger doesn't make them any safer than the small guy out there.
That may be very straight. Mr. Feeney?
So I have several points that I'd like to bring up for discussion again. So 70303, no owner, agent, or person in charge of any non-owner occupied premise, 8 or fewer rental units shall rent or let for occupancy such units or any part thereof for use as rental or residential or temporary occupancy, nor shall a person occupy, nor should a person occupy, I said that again, such premise unless the owner has a thrift thereof, holds a rental license, and a rental license has been issued for the unit by the director of permits, which license has not expired, been revoked, or otherwise null and void. A license under section 5 of 70304 of a property, as a license of a property may be revoked by the director of permits if the certified property receives more than 5 validated nuisance complaints or more than 2 validated fire life safety code violations as defined in the inspection report or call for police services in response to disorderly conduct, part 5 crimes. So that license can be revoked. At that point, no one technically can occupy that premise. That's a concern. Moving on, if you look at 70307, fees. The application fee, under B, the application fee for any rental license issued under this chapter shall be $50.
That will be struck this evening with the Borough Council.
And then under C, all rental units will pay an application fee for rental license according to the chart below, where it starts 1 unit $100, 2 rental units is $150, 3 units is $200, 4 or more is $50 or more. So there's inconsistencies there. Then I want to address a couple of items. So Mr. Diorio even stated and I appreciate this, that he would like to see more units covered, but there are limitations, and that we must crawl before we walk. We've been crawling since 2011. I challenge this council and this administration to find a way to meet those demands and do it right the first time. I have some suggestions I'll get to at the end. Mr. Diorio stated that driving around that he sees that most of the issues are the smaller units. That falls under ordinances that are already on the books for nuisance, and we can direct our attention to those. Those need to be directed whether it's a rental unit or if it's a privately held unit. The other thing that really kind of concerns me is this legislation has been called an experiment by two individuals. And once again, I challenge this council and the administration to put forth legislation that's not an experiment, but one that will hold to the direction that we want to go. I too want to see that the registration is for all units. If we don't charge for a rental registration, then there's no need to have the inspection for all units. We could address inspections to where there are concerns. Where there are exterior nuisance concerns, obviously, or in most cases, would indicate that the landlord is not taking care of the property on the inside also. There is change of ownership, or not ownership, well, ownership for owning the property, but also change of rental. If somebody changes, that's the time to go in and inspect to make sure that the unit is meeting code the next time. We have opportunities with permits to make sure that when those permits are pulled, that that portion of the property meets all those inspections. One of our largest units, owners here of units, is being sold, and it's being sold to a company that's in Cleveland. So once again, we have an out-of-town owner of one of our largest units. If those units become vacant, we should inspect before someone new goes in, regardless of where that owner is at. I just think, once again, that this council can do better, that we can put forth legislation to cover that, that Safe Built is an excellent firm that's been doing a wonderful job, can meet those demands. If we're not charging for the registration, but we charge for inspection, then that would handle that side of the Safe Built and the inspection. If we're going down this route, then we can have control over our rental units and address the concerns where they're at. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Story, any comments?
Yes, okay, so to expand on the tax problem, Dominic, you had mentioned that some people are getting the, you want to get the tax benefits of the federal and maybe even state write-offs. That is happening, I guarantee you that's happening. The problem is they're not then reporting that locally. So you can still get your federal credits, your state credits, and not report locally. And that's what we're finding in the sample data that we pull. People are living maybe in Jackson Township and they might own a single rental here, but they're not filing North Canton taxes for the rentals. And we pulled some sample data and it's widespread. And not only that, but also the tenants are not claiming that they're living there. So I don't know another way other than rental registration to track this. I mean, I'm open to suggestions, but it's not happening. I see it in my practice every day with every new client that comes in and has a question about rentals or owns a rental in our neighborhood or in our area. And it's not happening. That's my biggest concern. I don't see another way around it. No, go ahead.
Am I allowed to speak?
Sure.
Should I speak up here?
You can speak, whatever you want.
Can you hear me?
I'd rather you stand if you don't mind.
All 5.6 point of me.
Go to the microphone for the live.
Easy over there, big boy. So anyhow, so hypothetically, I go to an accountant. They have a fiducial obligation that when they see I have a property in North Canton City, they should be saying, you gotta file for North Canton.
Agreed.
So now, if I'm doing TurboTax, obviously, that's like, selling your house by owner. But technically, you have a fiduciary as a CPA or an accountant that you're supposed to.
Don't use that terminology because that's incorrect, but we have a ethical liability to do that.
Okay, so left or right, it's still in the same
site.
Agreed.
So the problem is that if I use it for a business, and I am using it for a business, so after 27 years, I use up my benefit, right? So what's the real benefit not filing in the city? Okay, so I'm an idiot. I forgot, I didn't know, I did a TurboTax. So why couldn't we just send a kind of a nice, aggressive letter to saying, look, we're having problems with this for the past 10 years, and with the economics, we're gonna put a stop to it, and we're gonna institute rental registration if we don't get compliance, and this is what we're looking for, and we expect a response within 7 to 10 days or whatever is appropriate. See what kind of response you get. And the other thing is, did you check with Rita? Can she query, regional tax, where we pay our taxes? Can she query to see what the rental numbers look like? How bad it really is? Like, how do you sample? How do you get a sample? Where are you pulling the data from?
We pulled our sample from Rita.
Right, so I just wanna make sure it's Rita accurate. I mean, hopefully.
It's not. It depends on the user. I mean, that's the whole problem. When people use TurboTax or something self-prepared, they choose whether to file local tax or not.
It's the input.
I know,
so idiot in, idiot out. I get it. But what I'm saying is, like, on all the legislation I read, it's all safe, secure, status. Like basically safety is the biggest issue. But it sounds like really the income tax, we feel like we're getting cheated. Look,
Absolutely.
Everybody should pay their fair share. I don't have a problem with that. So if there's not a better way to do it, is that the only way to do it? So before I create more legislation, more costs, more headaches, which even though we've been talking about this since 2011, since before I came, this was like a big deal when you guys interviewed me, if you remember, the older people. But the thing is that, is there another way to do it? Or we're just like, screw it, let's just do it and get it over with. And then let's get everybody in the fold and create the money, the revenue, the bureaucracy. What is the real purpose of it? So it sounds like the real purpose is revenue generation, right?
No.
What is it?
But
it's going to be different for everybody.
Okay, I'll let it go, because I know you guys got a meeting to run, but I'm just voicing my opinion.
I want to jump ahead to the administration today, because I'm going to put the administrator on the spot, all right? He was up in the second ward today on a mental health call, all right? Can you, Mr. DiOrio, describe the conditions of the apartment you entered, which were not visible from the street?
I get to talk later though, don't I?
You do. I tell you what, let me do this. Let's continue this.
I had that down.
And we'll come back, okay? Stephanie?
I mean, I agree with what Matt has said, and Dominic, I just don't know any other way to do it. I mean, you say.
I'm trying to brainstorm.
I know.
I always say last resort.
And you're brainstorming too, but there just aren't the ideas. And the one thing that I will say is, we don't have tenants and people coming up here on Monday night saying, please don't do this, please don't do this. I haven't received any calls.
So like technically, let's say I have a tenant move out. I give them a great house. I have a bad tenant, or mental health, or some kind of issue that they have. Technically, when they move out, the house could be a mess. I go back in, I put it back together. So I don't check them every, few weeks. I mean, I have a minimum of a 1-year commitment, let's say. So I was talking to a judge recently in Canton, and when there's these cases, the people, I'm clean, I'm a good person, blah, 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 and then they show all these pictures, which tell a different story. So like sometimes it's the tenant, not necessarily the landlord, but the landlord has to make sure they keep it in good repair, especially if they ruin it. And sometimes you have bad apples in the group,
Right.
and sometimes it's beyond their, maybe they can't help themselves.
Right.
I'll step aside and let you finish up.
Yeah,
but
I
you
guess-
guys, basically I voiced my opinion.
Yeah, and I appreciated your video, and I
Yeah.
know you and I have talked about it many times over the years, and
Yeah,
we've
I mean,
heard
I
you
have the same
go back and
stance. If we
forth.
were in Canton City, believe me, they have a big problem, and they're trying to address it. And they're doing a nice job. It just, like I said, it got a little away from them. So Daryl, what he said before is that when people sell their homes through estates, that they're renting them. That's not true. I know, because I'm in the trenches every day. There's 5 people in line for every house. And I can tell you right now, there's tons of people that would love to buy a house in North Canton, and it's way more fiduciary. The responsibility is, like I said, no grandkids or any kids, unless you're just temporary into it, like I said in the video. If the parents are coming back from a nursing home, they say, don't sell my home, so they drag it out and rent it for a little while. But 99% of the time, that house is sold, I promise you. I know that for a
It's good
fact.
value. Right. So right
This
now,
is far in excess of the 5 minutes he was originally given.
It's fine,
I
it's
have
fine.
never seen
It's not
anybody
public
be allowed to
speech,
come
thanks,
up and re-argue their position.
No, I'm
Last
done.
warning, Chuck.
I'm good,
Last
baby.
warning, Chuck.
so I agree, I guess, with taking it a little bit slower. I think safe build is fabulous, and I wouldn't even be going ahead with this at all if we didn't have safe build. And they've changed things dramatically, but I like the plan that we've established. And I want to move forward the way it's written, with a few of the corrections.
Mr. Osborne, I'm going to remind you, first of all, that we do have rules. Number two is it is the prerogative of this council at any time to ask questions or make statements to visitors in this room.
Well, at least you used to vote on it.
We don't need to vote on it. Christine?
Okay, I think 10+ years is a really long time to be working on something and talking about something. And I, for one, trust the admin team that we have in place. That doesn't mean without question, it doesn't mean without correcting errors, but we have an admin team that's getting things done. We have an attorney who's getting things done. The software that we're using, I don't care. Like,
Right.
that's an administrative function. I don't care. They're gonna be responsible. If not, we're gonna call them on it, but I don't need to be involved in those decisions.
And it's not our job to be involved in that.
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure the software is correct.
But
If
you
we
wouldn't
use
know,
that.
you're not the expert.
It's fine, but I just don't feel like that's our role. So I feel like, there are all of these reasons, and can we do some sort of tiered implementation? Does everyone feel better if we're like, we're gonna implement this, to the 8 or fewer, in 2022, and in 2025, we have a goal of, if we put a timeline on it, does that make people more comfortable? I don't know, just how do we move forward instead of just talking and questioning the people who frankly are more experts than I am. Like Stephanie said, no one's reached out to me besides Dom, and I appreciate it, and I'm watching, and learning from you. But you're the only one. That's, no one else. Yeah.
Mr. McLeisher?
I've been waiting to talk. No, okay.
The end of the line.
I want to thank both you two for speaking this evening, and kind of echoing what you just said. I've had exactly 2 people reach out on this issue that say that they are not for it, and countless that have said that they are for it. But I do genuinely appreciate your points of view. Through Dom's video, which again I appreciate, and again, I'm sorry, what was your name?
Kayla Atchison.
Kayla. So through Dom's video and Kayla, your discussion tonight, I think what I've come up with is the 2 reasons why we wouldn't do this is because there are people in line that might want to buy a house. Well, I don't see how rental registration impacts a owner-occupied person from buying a house. So to me, crossing that off the list. Little guy, that these are the little people that are owning the houses. Well, I'll be honest with you, it's not in the city of North Canton, but I manage rental properties for my parents. They're getting up there in age, and I, for one, am totally fine with a little bit of extra scrutiny and a fee. I think it makes everybody safe. I think it proves that the quality of the house is there. I mean, the fee's nominal, for crying out loud. And beyond that, I am a part of a startup company that would require a lot of regulation. So I guess I don't understand why we're afraid of little regulation, so I'm crossing that one off the list too. Because every business is regulated. I think it was a member of Volt who mentioned that Rose Ice Cream Stand, you want to sell an ice cream cone, you're going to get an inspection by the health department, by the fire department, and I mean any type of business. So for me, I look at what the pros are, because again, I can't find any cons. So the pros are, we're going to have safer houses. The pros are, which we've already identified through samples that have been pulled, is that we have taxes that are not being paid. So this is going to address that as well.
May not be paid.
That may not be paid. Okay, thank you for the correction. So, and as far as, I do agree with the 2 gentlemen down at the end that I would like to see this cover all houses, or all rental properties, excuse me, but I'm totally fine with the stepwise approach. I think we walk before we run, and I think we institute what we have here now. We come back maybe a year from now 18 months from now, and we implement for all of our properties. But as far as what has been presented, what we've been discussing, I'm happy for it, happy with what we have, and look forward to its implementation. So again, thank you too for coming in and speaking this evening. Bill Beck.
Mr. Diorio.
Wow. 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 I try to stay in my seat here. So, you know, I mean, this almost sounds like what I'm hearing is that, oh, we just made this thing up out of thin air. And who knows? Maybe I'm the wide-eyed optimist that thinks that if you put enough process into it, that you can actually move ahead with something. So we'll see. But you know, this process started with me 4 years ago. Not because I have some sort of thing about I want to go out and register rental properties or anything of that nature. I was here, I was brought in, for better or for worse, to solve some problems that weren't getting solved. The city council at that time said this was a problem that needed to be resolved, started down that road to try to fix that problem. As that started to unfold, it involved meetings with the Realtors Association, met with them, had very productive meetings, and what we have before us is a result of those meetings. What we have before us is a result of those compromises and those points of view that were taken into account. What we have here is, in essence, a program that was developed out of a white paper given to me by the Realtors Association. This is how it works in other places around the country. Let's look at those places. Let's get in contact with those places and taking that information and developing it into some sort of form. That was 4 years ago. Now we bring it current. We have a legal review, not just of what we're writing, but of what's happening with cases around the country in jurisdictions where these things are in effect, and in Ohio as well. I am not concerned, as the legislation is written, of any unconstitutional challenge to this. I believe that what we've written would survive that kind of scrutiny. Let's be clear. How about in 2008, we take a self-survey of the Residential Mortgage Bankers Association and ask them if they think everything's right in the housing market. No verification of income, get the down payments, everything's fine, couldn't be better. Do we want to wait? Do we want to be proactive? I think we're past. I think we are not even proactive anymore. This is reactive. We have to get our head in the game on this. I don't find any particular value associated with self-surveys. Laws don't address the issues. I mean, I heard a couple of people say this, and I think that you're completely out of tune. Completely out of tune with what I have to deal with. This isn't a pity party for me. These are calls that I'm getting from you or your constituents about problems. So, some on council like to call me the storyteller. So I'm going to tell a story. This is how my day goes. I didn't start this way today. I started minding my own business. And I saw, I was driving into work and saw some thistle growing in a property on Main Street that was 3 feet high, all the way around the house, in business, in the beds, noxious weed, there's an ordinance against that. Drove into City Hall, got the nuisance officer, said, hey, let's go drive around for a little bit. Let's go take a look at a couple of these places I saw on the way in. That was an hour and a half driving around, highlighting things, a whole bunch of things that are at issue. And he says, well, hey, it's I got to do an inspection at 11 o'clock. You want to hang around with me to do that? Sure, let's do it together. So the backdrop that Mr. Revolt was alluding to is, you know, again, I didn't start my day here, but here's what happens in an apartment building in Ward 2. So I show up, We knock on the door, we're supposed to meet the property manager there. Turns out to be a no-show. You can't get into the building to do the inspection. What's the issue? Well, there was a person there that was having a health issue, and the social agency that was involved asked our fire EMS department to transport this person to a facility, and said that this person isn't going to be back in their place for a few days as a result of that. The fire chief calls, after they make this transport, the fire chief calls the building department and the Stark County Health Department to report what they found inside the building. A building they would never have been in otherwise. What did they find? 30, 40 bags, big bags, lawn-sized bags, full of refuse, compost, and other things that had been in the apartment for weeks, months, never made it out to the trash, never made it out to the bin. And an infestation of bed bugs, which requires the entire building to be fumigated. Which, as you know, you can't even dispose of anything, of any fabric, for Kimball to pick up without the rules from the Stark County Health Department. Everything has to be encased in plastic because of bed bugs. We deal with this, I've been dealing with this for the last 2 years. People setting love seat out. Kimball won't pick it up because it's not enclosed in plastic. So we got this problem. And where is the complaints from the other 5 units in the building? If we're going to wait for complaints to come in to do something, we're going to be waiting. Nothing's ever going to happen, right? So this is the purpose of getting in and doing something. Maybe in this particular unit, certainly not saying this about the realtors as a whole, but maybe in this particular unit, there might have been some sort of retaliation against tenants for turning something in. I don't know. I was in the municipal court for a long time, seen a lot, wouldn't be surprised. But anyway, while I'm standing around waiting for somebody to show up to let us in to see if the final application of pesticide had been administered, I can't help but look around. That's what I do. This is probably a curse that I'll have for the rest of my life. I just cannot go somewhere and not look at it and see things in terms of what is not being done. Unlike Mr. Tripp's property that I drive by it every day and love it. Wish I had more people just like that that would exercise that kind of level of care. Not a weed in his yard. There's a building next to the building that I'm looking at, still in Ward 2, looking at this, walking around, not trespassing on the proper property, and I see strange things. I see, first of all, from the outside, I see a lot of property maintenance issues. Certainly, we could cite people for property maintenance. That's not the law that's going to do anything, though. See, so I have cases of property maintenance that are pending in the municipal court. We've been after people for years, and then ultimately, because the law isn't written in a certain way up here, I got to send them down to municipal court where it will take, short of forever, for that case to be heard, to be administered. And in this case, I'm trying to demo a building, not the one you're looking at, a different building. They don't work. The laws weren't written. They were written at a time when this wasn't issues, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. These are not the issues that we deal with today. We have to have the laws written in a way in which it can provide an equitable solution for the city. What is this law about? What are we trying to do? Yes, it's about the health, safety, and welfare. It's incidental to me that we're going to find out about income tax filing. It's incidental to me that I'm going to find tenants that are running businesses out of these apartments. It's going to be incidental to me that the property values are increased because if you increase the quality of the housing stock. That's not why I'm doing it. That's not why I've written it, we've written it in a way to deal with the health, safety, and welfare, because that truly is the purpose of this. In regards to the all, some, or none again, I certainly respect Member Orr, Member Matheny's positions, and Member McLeister. If you want all, would like to have all. This is what I'm telling you that we're able to do today. That's where I'm at. And I'm the one that has to implement it. I'm the one that's got to deal with it. It's my butt that's on the line if it doesn't work. I could accept that on my shoulders. But I need to have the tools to do it. So with all due respect, I'm going to pick out the software. It's not your concern.
No, I just want to make sure the software we pick would hit all.
John, you can rest assured that if I've picked the software, it will do what we want it to do. And if it doesn't do what we want it to do, I'm not going to pick it.
No, and I understand that. But there again, you have no, again, safety, health, welfare is the main thing, not income tax or what have you. So you would be in favor of maybe putting all in there? And then how you...
I said that at the beginning.
Yeah, so
But,
I think we could...
you would have to devote the resources to make that happen. Because it isn't going to happen with just what we've scheduled to come on board to deal with these problems now. Where we've talked with we're getting a full-time permanent person, adding.
We could add all, and how you want to do the plan, you can do it any way you want.
But all without money is another worthless council action that I've seen.
How could that be?
Seen all kinds of laws passed, but if you don't provide the 4 Ps, the policy, the process, the people, the pay for, you're doing the policy part. I'm telling you what I need for process, people, and pay for it. If you want to do all, then I'm going to come back and tell you process, policy, people, and it's going to be a large amount of money.
I guess I'm confused with why we have you as the administrator saying, I want to start part-time, and we're arguing with you about what you think you're capable
Well,
of.
that's a healthy
and
discussion.
what the city is doing.
We'll go.
I'm just confused with this. I mean, we trust that you know the manpower and our limits.
Agreed.
But what will Safe Build do?
He's counting that.
Safe Build.
Will they do the inspections, or, because the large ones get inspected every year by the fire department?
No, they don't.
They don't?
No, the large ones only get inspected in the common areas.
Yeah, that's it.
In
Here,
the common area?
common areas. So if they have a common place to microwave, oven or whatever, that area would get inspected. The hallways would be inspected, but the individual units would not be inspected. And then in the smaller units, the fire department doesn't have the authority.
To go in
So that's
and do it, right.
part of their focus. So those are great questions.
So, back to health, welfare, again, I think all would be the key word to put in there. So I would like to make a motion,
Well, I'd like to finish my story.
okay, go
I
ahead,
guess.
sorry.
Make sure that I get all my points in before you guys go ahead and start changing things. So, again, I hate that the word was used somewhere along the way. Could have been me, because I get a little worked up at times, you can tell. Experiment. If I use that word, I apologize. This is not an experiment. This has been something that has been put together, tried and true, throughout the country, multiple jurisdictions, multiple states, including Ohio, and I feel that with all the review from police, fire, building, which would be safe built in all the jurisdictions that they have operated within, administration, the legal, and have spent months and months and months going through multiple drafts to come up with something before it could even come to City Council. So I don't feel this is some sort of an experiment. So I regret that word being out there. We talk about, I think there was some comments about like when a tenant moves out, before somebody moves in, can we inspect? That's in there. That's something that we thought would protect and assist property owners who are dealing with individuals who have abused their stay. And that gives them some sort of independent verification when they have to, excuse me a second, I have this thing as a spider. My spidey sense went off. that completely threw my train. I hate those things.
Verification.
For the tenant moving out.
Yeah, in the court system, it would be a matter of helping them substantiate their claims that, for damages or something to the like, if that happened to be the case. And then, of course, if the units, and that was something that the Realtors Association suggested to us, in addition to that in the event that a building that is a rental is sold, it was their suggestion that this license be able to be transferred. They don't have to start all over with just because somebody changed hands. They already have a license, already was inspected, they're good for an X amount of period of time. How the next person deals with it. So those were things that were worked at with the Realtors Association. So I apologize to all of you for being long-winded there, but this is something that is very much needed. Now's the time. Now's the time. The time isn't later. The time is now. We've been dealing with this for a long time. And, you know, I appreciate you giving me that opportunity uninterrupted. Thank you. So back to you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to start back at this end real quick. Jamie, is there anything you need to add at this point?
No, I have all the confidence in the world in the administration, and I'd like to see this implemented.
No. No.
Stephanie?
Good.
David?
Couple of things. Mr. DiOrio, I appreciate the work that's gone in behind this. I still would like to see us get to all. If we scale back inspections from safe build to not include all units, but to include those units where the tenants have moved or the property has changed hands, then it may free up enough time that we can roll this out to all, have everybody then registered. I like the example that you gave, but would you change this from 8 to 12 if the unit you were at with the bed bug issue was a 12-unit apartment building? Or if it was a 16-unit apartment building? That's the point. If they're called there for a reason, then the inspection can follow that, because now you have a reason to go inside or to follow up, or the noxious weeds or those other issues bring cause for that inspection.
You won't get the call for cause. Person had a health issue, a health crisis. 4 days ago, they didn't have a health crisis. 8 days ago, they didn't. But they sure as hell had 30 bags of garbage, and refuse, and bed bugs there. So waiting for the call isn't going to happen.
But
Nothing will
the
be
inspection
done.
wouldn't take place either if this was in a 30-unit apartment building.
If the call doesn't come in, it's never going to take place. But what you're asking is for everybody to be registered under the law, but we are only going to go after certain ones. And therein lies the legal paradox.
We set up the rules like we did here of going after where the cause is first, and then if you want to roll it out.
You don't know where the cause, you don't know where the cause is. You're not finding out.
They vacated it, somebody else is moving in, they change of ownership. You're saying there's not a cause, but I think with the publicity behind this, there's going to be individuals that are going to be calling you and adding to your daily workload because of that being out there and being available.
People don't call now when it's vacated. People won't call when the tenant changes, just like they don't call now to report that they have tenants that are subject to a law from 1978. Zero. Been working with 4 finance directors. None of them ever come over to me and say, hey, why is this guy sending me a list of people to live in an address? Never have that conversation.
Sure. Final word.
I agree with what Mr. Matheny said. I really have nothing to add, but I would really like that word all in there. And I don't know if it was one of the, I don't know if it was Christine or who said we should slow down. I don't know if that was you. I don't know, one of the two said slow down. The only reason I see, I'm for rental registration, but not the current wording.
All right, very good. We've had a motion to read this. I'm going to make a motion to amend ordinance 43-22 to strike 703.7B. That will be at the very bottom of page 24, if you're looking at a paginated page. These are section 703.07 fees. You'll notice that there are 3 sections. We are going to strike section B. That was the reference. That was referenced by Mr. Matheny.
Story of sentence. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And can I have a motion and a second to adopt the first reading of ordinance 43-2022 as amended?
Revolt.
Word second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion carries 5-2.
No, that's it. If I could,
Yeah.
just one final comment on this. I think the term experiment may have arisen from me. If you all recall your history lessons, historians write about the American experiment. They call the states the laboratories of democracy, suggesting that there's experimentation. I think if you're going to try something new, it hasn't been tried before, it's an experiment. In this case, we've applied the 4 ingredients that Mr. Diorio has suggested are essential for success. We may have to tinker with it. There's nothing wrong with experimenting. I think these councils in this city has gotten into trouble when it hasn't done anything. It's refused to go into the laboratory and has refused to experiment. So I, for one, will claim title to that word. And I hope that in the future councils and administrations are willing to experiment, to try something new.
Yeah. It's called innovation.
It's called innovation. You
All it
betcha.
is.
And you should never be afraid of it.
No.
All right, I'm done.
All right. So moving on to 8B. Can I have a motion and a second to read by title only resolution 44-2020?
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ben?
A resolution declaring the city of North Canton's necessity and intent for the purpose of making or repairing roads to appropriate the fee simple title and interest in to a portion of the property described in the general warranty deeds attached hereto and incorporated herein as Exhibit A, the property, limited to that portion of the property described in the plat attached hereto and incorporated herein as Exhibit B, the premises, and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Okay, this is my committee, and this is the eminent domain of the property on the old Spitzer lot, corner of Charlotte and Main. Administration, is there any new information on this?
No.
Okay. No new
Motion
information.
to adopt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And can I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council requiring 3 readings?
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, can I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 44-2022 under suspension of the rules?
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to department reports. Gina. Patrick.
No report.
Ben.
It is, June is civil service season and May is our application season, so we are currently seeking applicants for full-time dispatch and fire department positions. Those tests will be the first week of June. And then also our sergeant's promotional exam registration opens today, and that'll be the last week of June.
Do you want to touch on the
I certainly can if anyone has any questions. So you have at your seats the report data I've been working on pulling from our public communications avenues and how well or poorly they may or may not be performing. On the whole, we seem to be doing pretty well. The council bulletins get an average of 313 people reading them, and our spring newsletter far outperformed our winter newsletter by this time actually properly using social media to promote it, with almost 1,000 people reading it. So we seem to be making headway in the right direction to get more people engaged with what's happening every Monday night. Hopefully we can continue to increase the number of weekly readers or monthly readers, depending on what we'll.
Thank you for that report. Okay, moving on to, let's go with Jamie.
All right, well, again, I want to thank the two speakers who came in and spoke about this evening's hotly contested item. And now I want to kind of maybe bring a little bit of levity and hopefully joy to the meeting, if I may. So, unfortunately, my seatmate here is not here this evening. I want to give the mayor a big thanks. I don't know if you guys are aware, on April 28th, the mayor, Ben, and some city employees and I made a little trip to Orchard Hill Elementary School. So, what started as my son, who's in 3rd grade, telling his teacher, "Hey, my dad wants to come in and talk," which no, it wasn't quite like that. He wanted me to come in, and she said, "Well, sure." And turned out we're friends of theirs, and I thought I was just going to go and speak to one class, talk about local government. I was terrified out of my mind when I heard that it was going to be all 3rd graders, about approximately 130 of them in the gymnasium. So I knew I had to call some heavy hitters. So my first call was to the mayor, and he suggested something that ended up being it made the day pretty cool. We did a touch-a-truck event that included fire truck, ambulance, police car, dump truck, and a front-end loader. And we did that on recess. So these kids had no idea. They just see trucks starting to show up. And I think it was the first recess session that somebody goes, "Hey, that's the mayor. I want an autograph." And so next thing you know, these kids are getting autographs from everybody. The mayor, I think, went through 3 pens. They're going over to the dump truck driver, getting his autograph, to the firefighters and police officers, which I thought was great. The best part was Superintendent Jeff Wendorf showed up at one point, and he said, "Who's he? Can I have your autograph?" And they didn't know who he was, but they knew who the mayor was. But after lunch, we went in and we gave a program, and Ben was the star of that show. A lot of great information that he shared. But one of the things that I think really capped the day off was a comment that the mayor made, and he said that as he was closing out our discussion, he says that he knows that in that audience there is a future firefighter or future police officer in there. And that, to me, made the day all worth it, because we were introducing these kids to the city services. We were showing them that police officers are approachable and maybe not scary like they might be portrayed in the news, that firefighters are there to help them, and that you can even pull the air horn in a dump truck, which one kid did. So it really was a great day. I think it was a great way for us to get out in our community and see even our littlest of constituents and tell them a little bit about the city. So with that, I have some cards I'm going to pass down. Those go down to Ben from the classes, and maybe I can leave these. I don't know why there's stickers on here that are falling off. If I can maybe give these to you to give to the mayor. So that's it. So
and any future council women, men?
There very well could have been. So very well could have been. Yeah. So, and that's all I have. Thank you.
That's nice, Jamie. That's great. David.
As chairperson of Personnel and Safety, it is my honor to announce that Officer Sean Patrick has been promoted to the rank of sergeant. That fills the vacancy that council created with ordinance 29/2022 and the amendment to chapter 137.04, which increased the number of authorized police sergeants to 6. Sergeant Patrick was hired by the North Canton Police Department as a full-time patrol officer in 2016. During his time on the patrol division, Sergeant Patrick served as a field training officer, radar instructor, was a member of the Canton Metro Crash Investigation Team, tasked with investigating serious injury and fatal crashes. He also worked a couple of days a week in the Detective Bureau and is still designated as a part-time officer with the U.S. Marshals Northern Ohio Violent Fugitive Task Force. Again, it's my privilege to say congratulations, Sergeant Patrick. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Stephanie.
As the finance chair, I'd like to congratulate Gina and her team.
the mayor had left us a note, and he was delighted to receive a letter from the Government Finance Officers Association reporting that you and your team have been awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the City of North Canton. I was 100% not surprised. I would expect that, but that's amazing. And what you do with your team, and the collaboration and the support and the encouragement, the job sharing tasks, and just, I think, the mentorship. You know, we talked about that. It doesn't say that in this, and I know that these are data-driven numbers, but I think it's all about it. So congratulations to you and your team. That's huge. I'm going to give you a round of applause for that. That's great. Were you expecting that, or?
The city actually has quite a long history of achieving that award, and it is a lot of work, but
Yeah.
it also has the high level of expectations that I believe we strive to achieve. The team is great. Working on every day that we do something is to that level.
Yes.
So that at the end, when we're going through the audit, is a smooth audit. And
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
I was excited to see that.
Thank
And I don't know who wrote the envelopes, but they are the nicest handwriting that I've ever seen. So whoever that is, tell them they did a really nice job with that. A second point, just to address a comment that was made about passion and commitment of any single one of us. When we were discussing the ordinance last week about attendance and different things, it had nothing to do about absences of those that have been here or even the last 4 years. And I actually had Ben pull up those records. Anybody can pull them up, and we've had really good attendance from its members. But what I want to make sure is that the people that want this position, and it's not about them asking, no one asked about the attendance policy, they know what's required, but the things that people even mentioned tonight that were excused absences, those are things that we excuse people for every single week. So this was actually an ordinance that was like a moot point. We've never had an issue with attendance. The things that we excuse people for are those very reasons. Family, vacation, other employee issues that come before this, because this is our part-time job, not our full-time job, and so that has to take precedence. And we've never, ever had to say, boy, has someone not shown up because of some reason. So it was an ordinance I felt like was maybe being portrayed against people that maybe would have excess sicknesses, and I didn't want that to be something. That maybe women who are single parents who have to take care of maybe their children, or maybe a parent, because that's who it does rely on, would maybe be harmed by this. So I guess, yeah, when you talk about passion, yeah, maybe that does come into play, that when 60% of people attending college are women now. So I do expect that this dynamic is going to change, and that it won't just be 2 women or 1 woman or never a woman mayor. That's going to continue to change, but I'm going to make sure that those women up here aren't targeted, and make sure that they aren't penalized for maybe taking their kids across country when they serve in the military. Something like that, you can understand. Or let's see, taking care of a sick parent or having a different obligation. So yeah, I'm going to take passionate remarks about that. But otherwise, pull up the records. Or I got another idea. Check what our state government has recommended. There's an ordinance in play, and it allows those that can miss at this point, if they want to call in on Zoom or other public officials, that they can, and it counts as a vote. And you know that. And we don't have to get another illegal opinion and waste our city's money by asking for that opinion. Or pull up old opinions from 2021 when it doesn't matter anymore. It is the law right now until the end of June. Please, make sure you understand what the law is before you waste our own lawyers' time and the city expenditures. That's all.
Thank you. John?
Well, a couple things. We talked about passion, and I thank everyone, the administration, the council, for the passion that we do have. It's great that we're able to have discussions that we had tonight. You know, we see both sides, and the city will benefit greatly from those. So thank all of you. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you. I hit the road again in my ward. I told them when I was campaigning it wouldn't be the last time they saw me. So I went to about 25 homes, got some different ideas from them, what they want to see from the city. Of course, some of the things I could answer, some of the other things I couldn't answer, but, you know, we've had, I've had a couple complaints on houses, that I knew about 2 of them, and I've talked to the nuisance officer about, and they're under control. They can't correct them right away. They got rid of the 2 cars in the one house, the backyard's cleaning up a little bit, not as fast as I would like it, but they're making progress, and it is a single mom, so we have to allow things like that. And it's probably one of those rental homes that we don't know about. So, that's happened. I will start up in June, I'm thinking the middle of the month, council, or coffee with your councilman in my ward. So that'll bring some people in, and the more we can communicate that way, will hopefully improve our way to communicate to the voters of North Canton. I did also have time for coffee, and I stopped at one of the places on Main Street that
The new
Shale,
one?
the new one.
Yeah.
And what a nice place. The owner was there. It was very nice, great place, and I wish them all the best of luck. It was really nice, and if you get a chance, get out there. You know, buy and shop local.
They've been busy.
They've been
Thank
super
you,
busy.
yeah.
And it was really a nice. I wasn't expecting it to be as nice as it was. So I think if George walked in there, he wouldn't recognize it. So, but that's all I got. Thank you, council, and thank you again.
Thank you, John. Darrell?
I think, just to briefly follow up on Stephanie's comment as we look at future charter amendments. I think one of the real questions is, and I guess this actually plays upon John's earlier comment about discussion, is I think it's helpful from time to time to imagine what a councilman really does. Is it a Monday night, or is it something more? I can tell you that from my experience, limited as it is that it's more than showing up on a Monday night. It's constituent service, like John's engaged in. Beating on a few doors, meeting with the residents, out and about. That's still work. It's coordinating with the council president during the week about a piece of legislation or concerns. It's discussion with the administration about an issue or idea. And it might be carrying a research idea to our Director of Legislative Affairs and having a follow-up in the report, reviewing the report. There's a lot more to being a councilman than just here on a Monday night. To Stephanie's point, and I am going to say this, what I've said privately, and I say this as a 71-year-old man who's raised his children and looks for every opportunity to see his grandchildren. And I've said this to the members of council who have children. Your life moves very fast. Those children, particularly if they're young, count on you to be present in their lives. There will be occasions when there's a Monday night concert, maybe a cross-country, or a cross-country trip. That's more important than any vote on a paving contract at the end of the day. Because that child is your primary responsibility. And I think the voters who are parents would appreciate your dedication to service, but they're equally place an emphasis upon your dedication to your family and the children in it. So as we have this conversation about what does a councilman do, let's think about what we want in that councilman, a council person, I should say. What are the core values? We want commitment, we want participation, we want great debate, we want people prepared for the debate, good family members. Let's not denigrate that. I'm done.
All right, thank you, Daryl. Christina?
All right. I just want to quickly thank the administration and the clerk and, you know, everyone really employed with the city for being so approachable and allowing us to come in and ask questions before these meetings and gather information and helping me understand what I don't know. Again, I think, you know, y'all are the experts in a lot of what's happening here, and you're in place for a reason, and I just appreciate that. And then Ben, I love, so Ben put together this like report of like marketing. So I think, again, just as a compliment to all of you, this citywide survey was completed, and lack of communication was, I don't know where it was on the list, but it was high. It was really high. And so the fact that you've taken that and you're running with it, and not only are you like, I do marketing as my job, and like, I don't do this. So thank you, clerk, for putting that together and doing that and tracking it and trying to help us achieve what our constituents said they want. I think it's a big deal, and I appreciate it.
Very well.
That's all.
All right, thank you. My turn. I want to say that I appreciate the dialogues from constituents, Kayla, Dominic, from council. We don't necessarily agree with it, but it's an important topic, and we talk it through. And also from the very detailed work that administration put on this. It's a healthy conversation to go back and forth. That's why we're here. So I appreciate that. That's how council should work on things, especially important things. Gina, congratulations. You know, when I think about what Gina does and how she conducts herself, I think of the word teamwork, because I think that you are the ultimate team player. Yeah. And I think that doesn't go unnoticed, so thank you for that. Thank you. That's all I have. Buy and support local. Final call for new business. Let's talk about the meeting calendar coming up. On May 16th, we have a committee of the whole. We have had some conversations about perhaps adding a special council meeting. Do we need to do that?
I thought we did.
I thought we did.
I am not aware of anything that would need a special meeting this coming month.
Do we have to do stuff on it?
We have a meeting on the
For the
16th.
16th?
Yeah. It's
have
not coming
two
to me
things
right
that
now.
if they're
so-
done,
No.
then they'll be on, and if they're not done, they won't be.
Okay, all right.
So he said, if he only has two things right now, so then I mean, he's something that's already done.
Okay, well, we'll come back to that. May 23rd, we have a public hearing at 6:45, followed by the regular city council meeting. And then on May 30th, we have no meeting, 5th Monday and Memorial Day. Any other discussions via the calendar? Motion to adjourn?
Revolt moves.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourned.